Hello, I'm Nikolas Kosmatopoulos. I'm an associate professor of politics and anthropology at the American University of Beirut. And today in this brief video, I'm going to present my recently published book, Masterpiece, The Politics of Lebanon's Violence and the Politics of Expertise. I want to introduce you to this book through a brief reading of the introduction. So this book presents peacemaking as a force of domination to be reckoned with in an epistemological and practical sense. Epistemologically, post-war peacemaking marked a counter-revolutionary moment, countering the anti-colonial critique of violence with a program of racialization, subjecting the emancipatory potential of the global anti-war movement to elite capture. Practically, it formed relations of hierarchical dependence between subjects of violence and those who claim to be able to master peace. Masterpiece poses three clusters of claims in the face of this emergence. The first claim is that peace, an issue of global significance and urgency, has come to be governed through an expert-led field that regulates and rules over theories of violence and subjects of peace. Second, the consequences of interventions vis-à-vis political violence are hierarchically structured through racialized categories, moral precepts, and technocratic processes, governed not through democratic and participatory politics, but by closed groups of experts. When authoritative fields of experts do the work of peace in a post-violent setting, violence becomes sanctioned based on moral precepts and not historical contexts. In other words, in a global context of widespread and variously manifested violence, to identify and single out certain subjects as topics of research and analysis, as populations to be trained and as social groups to be monitored, constitutes an act of second-order violence in the name of peace. Third, the effects of this development on contemporary politics at large are arguably immense. New possibilities for understanding violence are offered, but others are disabled and silenced. The political implications of regarding violence as primarily a moral concern and viewing peace as implementation of technocratic solutions are widespread and unaccounted for. Seen from this perspective, the current genocide in Gaza prompts us to push back against ingenious calls to condemn Palestinian humanity and its resistance to the war machine and the masterpiece that preceded it. Palestine, where Masterpiece celebrated one of its most lasting projects, is also the place where the effects of its hegemony crumble today, opening up horizons to imagine peace beyond Masterpiece. This would mean embracing the will to live, the will to fight, and destroy the colonial fate prepared for them, also in the form of peacemaking. It is through effectively countering the war of annihilation, even in the rubbles of unfathomable death and destruction, that Palestine gives birth to a new and permanent non-peace, beyond and against Masterpiece. A permanent non-peace calls for permanent non-acquiescence vis-à-vis liberal myths of violence, constant awareness against the return of fascism, in the West in particular, continuous work for a society that will not need peacemakers, for it will be injustice.